It's been a while since I've done this. Let's see how it works. In the beginning, science and religion held hands, kissed like old lovers, and spun away into the darkness. Bang! The first few seconds of the universe, everything that would ever exist in the universe was located in something the size of a pea. It was nothing but pure energy with so much pressure, so much heat, nothing could have survived in a physical state. And this energy, it burned away, it corroded the nothingness around it, and it expanded at light speed. And in its wake, it shat reality. It begat distance, it begat space, it begat time. And as time began to exist, it began to cool things down, and this cloud, this miasma of pure energy began to condense ghosts from this mist. Leptons, quarks, these things, fermions, began to emerge from this cloud, and they got together and they became electrons and protons and neutrons. And these things, as the universe cooled even more, clumped together to become the most basic element of all, hydrogen. The early universe was filled with hydrogen. It is still the most common element in the universe that we can spot. Now, the first rule of the new universe is gravity, and gravity already began to extend its tendrils out. But the second is chaos is not uniformity, and everywhere that there was this hydrogen, there were unevennesses in it. It wasn't a smooth sheet. There were lumps, there were bubbles, and these bubbles, the third law of the universe is he who has gets more, and gravity called more things into itself, and these lumps began to coalesce, and they became disks, spinning clouds of matter, of hydrogen. And inside of these clouds, there were smaller lumps that would become protoplanets, and somewhere in the inside there was at least one lump that was large enough, heavy enough, that the hydrogen atoms began coming together in reverse of the Big Bang, coming up closer, the atoms bumping against one another as mass began to collide upon itself, becoming heavier and heavier and heavier as more hydrogen was called to it, until eventually two hydrogen atoms were forced by the weight to merge. This creates heat, and this creates light. Bang! This is the first generation star. It is a class M series star. It is bright white. It's like looking at the arc welder of a torch. It is so bright that it can burn through its fuel in just a few million years. Hydrogen to hydrogen to helium, hydrogen to hydrogen to helium, hydrogen to hydrogen to helium. But eventually the core of this young star begins to run out of the helium. It starts running loose of its best, most energetic material, and it starts having to merge helium and hydrogen, oxygen and helium, beryllium and helium, lithium and helium, oxygen and oxygen, carbon. It's too much effort. And eventually, this star starts to wear itself down, starts to burn itself out, starts to run down. Now, during the young phase, when it's strong and going, all of this energy emits outward, and it counteracts gravity for a little while. Gravity continues to pull more hydrogen in, and the solar winds push back out, and the universe has light. But eventually, as the star wanes, the solar winds fade, and gravity begins winning this tug of war, as it always will. And eventually, the inside of the sun is left with little except for the heavier elements. Now, elements have a sense of self, a solidity to them, and they don't like merging when they're heavier. So the heavier elements don't generate much electricity, they don't generate much heat, they don't generate much life. And eventually, the sun gives up. And the carbon that is located in the center collapses under the weight of the hydrogen that's piling upon it. And all the hydrogen in the inside collapses in a few staggering, explosive steps until it is all carbon, or as much carbon as it can. And it tries to condense one more time to iron. Now, iron does not want to be merged, particularly in a sun that is 1.5 to about 3 times the size of our sun. Can't do it. The gravity is not strong enough to overcome the electrical force between the atoms of iron. And when it tries, all it does is explode. Bang! This is a neutron bomb so large it will sterilize life hundreds of light years away. One of the reasons that maybe we were given the chance to evolve is that we aren't located anywhere near a birth factory of these hot young suns. We're located out on some lazy arm of the Sagittarius. long distances away from any place that might sterilize us with its death knell. This is the death of a normal star. But what if the star is heavier than this? What if it's a star that's greater than 3 times the size of our sun? What happens is gravity can win that fight. It says, fuck you to electro-strong force. And when it tries to collapse the iron again, this time it wins. And when it wins, it grabs the universe and pulls it down. And what you get is a vase, a shape from which nothing can emerge in the shape it came in. Light starts pulling in. The gravity of this black hole reaches out across light years, grabbing other children of hydrogen and pulling them in. And we today can see the X-ray, the gamma ray screams of death as these stars are dragged, burning into the vase they can never escape from. We see this today, but it is not going to be the fate of our sun. Was not the fate of the first generation sun that came before us. These stars simply explode, leaving all of the things that they have forged, all of the toys that they had made, the oxygen, the beryllium, the lithium, the carbon, the iron, scattered throughout this new area of space. Once again, he who has gets, and gravity continues bringing things back together. And once again, a new disk is formed, spinning, elements gathering together. And in the inside, something is large enough to get enough of the gases together to ignite. And once again, we have a star. But this time, it's not a white star. It's not a O-series star. This is a cooler star. Maybe a white, maybe an M-series star like ours. Maybe it's a red dwarf, or maybe it's the sputtering little dim light of a brown dwarf. But these stars emit light, emit heat out into the solar system that's around them. The other lumps that were forming around the solar disk become the planets. The rockier planets towards the center, and the more gaseous out where they can keep their hydrogen from the greedy sun. Now there's a place, a distance called the Goldilocks zone. Depends how far it is, depends on what type of star you have. But within this zone, you're far enough from the sun that it won't burn away your atmosphere. It won't consume your water in a boiling rage. But close enough that it can be warming, but not so far that everything will be frozen. You end up with the watery moons around Jupiter. You end up with the great gas giants that exist in the outer solar system. Inside of this Goldilocks zone, you have all the things you need. You have carbon, one of the most common elements in the universe outside of hydrogen. You have oxygen, you have nitrogen, you have all of these elements that were forged in the heart of that first generation sun, or flung off from the second generation sun. And in this liquid water, the carbon, the oxygen, just maybe, given time, bang, life. Now, the carbon that you have inside of every single cell in your body, that's inside the smallest package of death in the AIDS virus, to the largest sequoia towering for thousands of years, to the mightiest whale, this is the foundation of every single part of your body. Organic chemistry. The gas you burn in your car was once some microscopic animal at the bottom of a sea, and its death, plus the pressure and heat of our own molten core, made the fuel that you burn. So, when I tell you you are the children of stars, I'm not being poetic. Your bones have seen the earth. Remember it when it was cold and dead. The oxygen you breathe danced on the coronal skin of a first-generation sun. The iron in your blood remembers the death of a star. The neurons in your brain have fed suns. You are the children of the sun. Every